All right, welcome back to another episode. We are doing Cracking the Restaurant Labor Crunch. So we are talking all about labor and the big challenge it is for restaurants right now. I want to thank our diamond sponsor, Performance Food Service, before we get into the show. They are at performancefoodservice.com, and we appreciate their support getting into it. So joining me is Maggie Diehl from Sunday. They have the Sunday app, which we're going to talk about and so forth. But I am outside Orlando. Where are you guys at?
We are in New York City.
Okay. Good. Love it. I was just there this summer, and I think we talked briefly before the show. That's right. And I just love that part of town. Although, as I pointed out to her, the density of New York can be overwhelming at times, but great restaurant city. What are you guys seeing there as it relates to pandemic, as it relates to restaurant labor crunch? Restaurants must be struggling there. There's so many finding people. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the restaurant industry just more broadly is obviously really suffering. I mean, the labor crunch is intense. There's 20,000 restaurants in New York, and I think all of them are really feeling the pain. And I think, like, just very simply, with regard to the labor shortage specifically, like, the guest experience is just suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guests are having to wait longer for everything, and in a city like New York, where like dining out is a really critical part of life. I mean, the restaurant is basically your living room. And it's kind of become this somewhat painful experience. Like with the restaurants, right? The front of house staff, they've got more tables. And so they're being forced to spend time on things like getting orders, entering them in the point of sale, running orders. There's just not as much time connecting with guests. And then obviously, like, fewer cooks on the line. You know, there's longer wait times for orders. So I think you're seeing an overall suffering. And, you know, restaurants are reducing hours. They're either cutting out lunch service altogether, cutting a day of the week. And then some are just limiting tables. Like, there's this really popular restaurant in the West Village where I live. And they've got 15 tables in a warehouse in Brooklyn because they can't service them. So it's really been a challenge, I think. And then in New York specifically, there's a lot of, obviously, the COVID regulations.
Yes.
So requiring vaccination, proof of vaccination can cause friction between the hostess and the guest. So just tension is somewhat rising in the restaurant industry more broadly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, the regulations are different throughout the country, but New York was one of the hardest shut down locations in the beginning, and it sounds like they have more regulations in place. I'm here in Florida, and we were shut down for exactly 1 minute, and they kept going for good or bad after that. But I know that is a big factor. Anything interesting you've seen on the tactic side for restaurants attracting people, and whether it's clients or things you've just seen? Whether it could be something, hey, there was a table tent, they send me emails. Have you seen anybody do anything interesting to attract staff?
I mean, I think they're really being forced to get creative with casting a wide net. I mean, hospitality job boards, going to kind of like temporary labor companies that are helping them staff, and contractors. Social media. I think there's really just an effort to get bodies in the restaurant. I would say, like, in terms of retention as well, like, restaurant industry has never really been known for being the highest quality work environment. So we're seeing kind of a new focus on pay and benefits just more broadly as a way to ensure that staff is happy. Things like, you know, better health insurance, on-the-job skills training, more flexibility to pick up on-call shifts, year-end bonuses, meals, right? Things to just kind of what the equivalent of office perks.
Yeah.
It's kind of a new table stakes.
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, you mentioned that's come up a little bit in the calls, and really, if we were to summarize some of the things that we've learned from this process, it's like it is not going to be the same as it was 2 years ago moving forward. The expectations of the workers are changing as well. They should, right? You just pointed out it's historically been maybe underpaid, underappreciated, and the reality is people don't want to be treated like that anymore. And so,
Totally.
that means pay has to come up, and benefits and packages and perks and career growth and so forth. And so In some ways, that's a very painful process for the restaurants because it raises costs and everything. But perhaps structurally in the future, it's a better path forward. And so we're going to see. We're going to see as that goes.
And I think I would add, Jamie, that I think just more broadly, and the restaurant industry is no different. Like this need is a bit of a paradigm shift, I think, in working and what we can expect from our job and our employers. I think even with my company, Sunday, there's an expectation of not just flexibility, but also kind of authenticity and caring. And just the whole relationship between employer and employees is shifting, I think, across the board in really interesting and ultimately positive ways.
Agreed. And another thing that's come out is that aspect, that culture aspect, feeling that the company, one, cares, but two, they're interesting and they're unique. And so when I think about it, I think about the opportunity for independence, specifically in New York, obviously, is just all about the independence versus, I'm in suburbia here and it's chain, more so than anything else. But independents have an opportunity to be different by showing personality, by showing culture, by getting real. And, whether it's just shooting something on your phone real quick that shows who you are, you can do all those things versus having to go through corporate ladders and approvals and things like that. Gives you an opportunity to be different and show who you are. Have you seen anybody do anything unique in New York as it relates to everything that's going on?
I think just adoption of technology is as a lifesaver, really, for restaurants specifically. I think it's a very traditional environment, right? A restaurant, it hasn't really changed in decades, just the whole experience of it. And so with regard to, I think, COVID and then post-COVID labor shortage, restaurants are really starting to adopt things that they probably wouldn't have prior. I think things like Sunday, for example, like our company, we are making payments super fast and streaming, fastest way to pay in restaurants in the world. And so by integrating with the restaurant point of sale and putting QR codes on the table, guests don't have to raise their hand for the check. They can check out on their own when they're ready and go. So it really frees up a lot of server time to focus on what matters, which is the guest experience, increases efficiencies, but ultimately enhances that guest experience. And I think that's been really helpful for a lot of restaurants. Things like ordering as well at the table. So a lot of ways in which guests can have kind of actually quite an interesting and tech forward experience in a restaurant that's created a lot of efficiencies for the restaurants themselves, especially during this time where it's just they don't have a choice.
Yeah, a couple of things to pick up on there. So I interviewed your CEO, Christine, a couple months back. And so we talked about that, and definitely good episode if you want to go to the Running Restaurant site and look for the Sunday interview. Good stuff there. But that pay at the table that you just talked about, and that's kind of the one of the big features that you guys have. I love it, like with a capital L, like because like, especially, well, not so much. I mean, yes, now, but like, if you could have had it like 5 years ago, I would have loved you even more. Like we had the kids at the table, and it's like, can we go now? Can we go now? And it's like, man, when it's time to go, it's time to go. And like the meal can be great and everything can be perfect, but when you screw up the paying thing at the end of the meal, it legit like ruins the experience. Like when I'm ready to pay and I got to do this, right? I got to do the head thing. And it's like, I just want to give you my money and go. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a game, maybe it's whatever, or it's a kid just doing loops around the restaurant and me feeling like, like I'm a bad parent. But anyway, the point is, I mean, it works really great. I don't know if when we traveled this summer in the Northeast, a lot of restaurants had it. Whether it was your service or someone else's, but the ability to both pick up the menu from my phone and to pay right from my phone was integrated into the receipts. Haven't seen it as much where I am here outside of Orlando, but if I see it on the receipt, boom, I love that as a way to check out. What else are you hearing feedback wise from customers and your audience or restaurant operators as it relates to it?
they're loving it. I mean, we're saving 15 minutes on average per table. Like, people are spending more. So at the end of the meal, if you know you don't have to flag down the server, you might get another drink, you might get another coffee. So restaurants they're actually seeing kind of basket size increase. It's also kind of just a novel and delightful experience. The ease of it is really, it's very cool. It's just a very cool thing to do. And we pay this way in other industries. I mean, the mobile payment technology is not new, but in a restaurant, it's this kind of novel thing. And so I think it's a good conversation starter. Restaurants are loving it. They're saving a ton of money. Their servers can actually focus on other stuff. So it's been, to adopt this as a restaurant, it does mean you have some operational changes, but I think the benefits they've seen far outweigh the adjustment to the way they work. So loving it. And I think we're just really excited to get it in as many restaurants as possible and coming down to Florida as soon as possible.
Yeah, get down here. I need you. But yeah, I think it is, for all the reasons that you talked about, very, very, very effective. I forget in my conversation, are you guys moving into that front side of it where you can also scan and do the ordering part? Is that something that you guys touch? Or
ordering is on the roadmap. It will be coming next year. And I think there's loyalty, there's going to be kind of more features added. I think, to your point, that payment though is really where we're focusing right now, and streamlining that experience. But I think, more broadly, just tech in an elegant and simple way, not in a way that removes the interaction with the server. I think that's super important, and we want to make sure that is as high quality as possible. So the goal is not to eliminate staff or to kind of remove that human touch, but just to make it better and make it easier, and allow people to kind of pay and experience restaurants in the way that is the most compelling.
Yeah, listen, the table turn aspect is important, right? I mean, if you're wasting 10 minutes just to pay, like, you can eliminate that 100%, and it's uncomfortable, right? The back and forth and so forth, and it's not the funnest part of the job for the staff either. So that's great. So yeah, and I agree. So like I've scanned menus at places, and it has become a COVID trend, right, to not hand out menus and touch, and makes it easier, and so that's become popular. However, I don't want to lose too much of the, what's good here, what's special here. And so you do want to keep those opportunities in your restaurant, even if ultimately the person is using their phone to input the order. Staff should continue to be trained and knowledgeable on how to serve the guest the best way, and upsell and so forth. And tech has the ability to do that. So, anything else you're seeing out there in the broadscape, whether it's stuff you guys don't do in the restaurants that could help them be more effective, more efficient in the times that we're seeing right now?
Yeah, I think just being open to new solutions. I think that it's tough to change the way you run your business, but I think necessity is the mother of invention. And there's a lot of great tech out there that can be hugely beneficial, both to the top line and the bottom line for restaurants. I think there's a lot of resources in the community to help with that. And, looking online, whether it's Sunday, whether it's another company to look to help just improve the business, and being open to that is, we're seeing more and more restaurants moving in that direction, but I think that there's a lot of resources out there.
Yeah, it's a good point, and not saying anything that people don't know, but the business is fundamentally changing, and if you average profit margins and food costs, et cetera, and traditionally you could grab a book and follow the formula, but it's changed. I'm going to have to update what's back there, is because it's no longer follows that equation. You really need to streamline your operations in a way that wasn't the case 5 years ago. And tech can grab a point here, a point there, and all of a sudden you're back to a nice margin that's 10%, and hopefully 8, 10, 15% where you're making money for all the hard work that restaurant operators put in. So appreciate you being here. Where should folks go to find out more? I think I have on my side sundayapp.com. Is there anywhere else they should go?
Sundayapp.com. That's where they should go. Find all information. We've got locations. We got people all over the place. We're in New York. We're in Atlanta. We're in Miami. We are going across the United States. We're in London, France, Spain, UK, Spain, France, Canada. So find me. I'm Maggie Diehl at sundayapp.com. would love to talk more about us.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, these guys are on the trajectory upward. I think I saw a fundraising round that was super substantial. So they're growing like crazy, and they're out there with some great tech solutions. So I appreciate you being here. I want to thank our diamond sponsor, again, Performance Food Service. They are at performancefoodservice.com. Appreciate their support. So I am Jaime Oikle from runningrestaurants.com. I want to thank Maggie Diehl from Sunday for joining me. You can find them at sundayapp.com. We'll see everybody soon. Thanks much.
Thanks, Jamie. Bye.